So I just saw Happy Death Day to You, and it was slightly better than the first one. I mean, it was still terrible, and it was much, much more stupid, but the film as a whole kind of worked better for what it was going for, I think. Both the first and this film don't take themselves as seriously as your average horror movie, but with the first film's conflict being, oh no, who's killing me all these times, the second film manages to be less serious because the major conflict is, oh no, I'm stuck in the wrong dimension. It's pretty stupid, so let me explain, I guess. Basically, this movie tries to explain why the time loop even happened in the first place. It turns out that the main character's Asian friend created a quantum cooling reactor as part of his university science project, and that's why she was stuck in a time loop. No idea why she was chosen for the time loop particularly, because she's the only character that can remember everything every time the day resets. It gets a lot more stupid than that, but first we'll talk about a few other things. As the movie starts out, the Asian guy is in the time loop, and then it goes to her later. So for the first 15 minutes of the film, it almost seems as though he's gonna be the main character in this one. He was just a side character in the original, but in this film, he's given way too much screen time, particularly because he can't act at all. Seriously, this is the worst performance I've seen in a very long time. I did not believe a single moment of his performance, so it was refreshing to say the least when the film reinstated the girl from the first movie as the main character. And given the material she has to work with, she actually does a pretty good job. There are several scenes that they filmed in slow motion for this movie, but it all looks so poorly presented that it's just kind of a joke. It almost seems like kind of a waste of an effect when the framing is so ugly. Compared to the first film, this movie was much more effective at comedy. There were actually a couple moments that were genuinely funny. I can't think of a single moment from the first film where I actually enjoyed myself, but there were a couple in this one. Watching the main character lose her mind when she figures out she's stuck in the same time loop yet again was pretty entertaining. Alright, I really want to tear through this plot right now, so I'm gonna put on a spoiler warning. If you don't want to see spoilers for this movie, just skip to this part in the video. There's your warning. 3, 2, 1. So it's already pretty stupid that they tried to explain the time loop by introducing this quantum science project thing, but despite how vaguely the rules are established, this film still does not even seem to be able to follow them. It kinda just makes shit up as it goes along. Whatever's the most convenient for the script is what happens. They decide that the way to get her back to the right dimension is to use the machine again, but the dean of this college really does not want them doing that, so every time they try to do it, he bursts into the room to stop it. There are some points where he shows up a completely different time of day than he did before. He just always seems to know it's happening. But then there are other parts in the film where they introduce different conflicts. At one point, the main character changes her mind and doesn't want to go back to the original dimension yet, so the dean doesn't show up, and this is so the main character can be like, oh no, and stop them just in time herself. As the film goes on, it struggles to introduce new sources of conflict, because if anything goes wrong, she can just kill herself and start the day over again, right? So then they introduce this idea that she's getting weaker every time she resets the day. She wakes up and it looks like she has a tummy ache, and then she passes out, and then she's in the hospital, at which point she realizes she's on borrowed time and now things actually matter. But then she dies several times after that and wakes up just fine. You'd think she'd wake up with a tummy ache and pass out and go to the hospital every time from that point on if she's getting weaker every time it resets. They introduced it as a lazy excuse as to why the main character can't just kill herself every time something goes wrong, but then the film just forgot about it. If she's consistently waking up fine now, then there's no issue, right? So they need to get the machine working again so she can go back to her correct dimension, but they can't fix the machine unless they input the correct algorithm. Each of these algorithms is very long and complicated, so they couldn't possibly try all of them within a single day. So the main character memorizes every single one of these long and complicated algorithms that they try. She basically spends an eternity memorizing this shit so she can write it all out on a whiteboard for them. But the science kids already know these algorithms. Why didn't you just number them 1 through 12 and say, nope, the first one didn't work, the second one didn't work, etc.? The science kids would number them the exact same way every time you come back. You're telling me that all of these science geniuses never considered anything like that, and the main character never considered this once over the months or years or however long it took her to memorize all that shit? There are clearly much easier ways to do this, but nope, she spends an eternity memorizing these long and complicated algorithms she doesn't understand. And just as they're finished inputting the correct algorithm, the computer gets a virus that deletes their code, so they have to type it out all over again, and she's like, nope, can't kill myself. Remember my tummy hurt that one time. It's a very stupid movie that doesn't make any sense. There was also a really weird post-credits scene. Somehow the government found out that these kids created a machine that makes a time loop, and they're like, okay, we want to study this shit. We need a test subject to go into this time loop so that we can study it. So it ends with them putting the mean girl that they don't like in the time loop. Once again, it never established how the machine chooses who gets time looped. They just wanted it to end in a way where people would be satisfied to see this really mean girl that nobody likes stuck in an endless time loop forever. If the mean girl that you don't like is stuck in a time loop, then she's the only person that can remember everything when the day resets. So how exactly are you planning on studying this? You won't really be able to observe anything. You won't be able to retain any information. This doesn't make sense. Now, once again, there are killers in this film, but their motivations make even less sense than the first one. So a man named Gregory is trying to kill her friend Lori. She determines that it's him behind the mask and is like, I know it's you, Gregory. You want to kill my friend because you're having an affair with her and your wife found out about it. So you set a convicted killer free so that everybody would think that the other guy did it and not you. And that way the secret of the affair would die with my friend. But doesn't the wife already know about it? Not really much of a secret, is it? So the main character and her friend have the upper hand against this guy, but then the guy's wife shows up and shoots her friend? And she's like, you really think I was gonna let a little whore like that ruin my life? So I guess the wife wanted him to kill the main character's friend, and she just showed up with a gun for some reason. If you wanted to use a gun, then why was he trying to kill her with a knife? So then the wife gives Gregory the gun that was taken from the main character, and just as he's about to shoot the main character, he says, oh wait, I forgot, and then shoots his own wife, and then he says, I want a divorce. What? So if you were just gonna kill your wife anyway, then why were you trying to kill the main character's friend? This doesn't make any sense. Anyway, this movie was very, very stupid, but it somehow managed to be a little more self-aware. There were even points in the film where they kind of acknowledged criticisms of the first movie. One of the characters says something like, who the hell would decide to have a baby as a mascot anyway? It's clear that this film is trying to be more of a fun comedy than a horror movie. That doesn't make it any less stupid or poorly shot or acted, but it does make it more bearable. This wasn't really a good film, but it was kind of a guilty pleasure in a way. There were some parts where I actually enjoyed myself, and I definitely was not expecting that. So check this one out if you want. It's not good, but maybe you'll have fun. And I'm giving this one a 3 out of 10.